Welcome back into the Attorney's Hour final segment, but just enough time for you to get your question to us. You can call, text, email. We would love to have you join the conversation talking about truckers and trucking companies. We've been talking a good bit about the regulations and laws that are in place. Are trucking companies required by law to carry insurance on their trucks?
They absolutely are, and Rachel, talk a little bit about that for us.
Well, the minimum requirement is $750,000, which, you know, unfortunately with catastrophic injuries and deaths, I often find that's not enough. I've seen it up to $5 million, but the minimum for normal passenger cars in Alabama is $25,000. But for obvious reasons, with the more severe injuries with the trucking cases, they are required by law to carry that insurance.
And there are different layers of requirements for liability insurance coverage. For instance, if you are certified or if you have an endorsement to transport hazardous materials, that's going to carry with it a minimum limits of $1 million in liability coverage if you're transporting that type of product.
Spending a little time with you all over the last year or so, oftentimes you all will make the point of how important it is to be timely and not to waste any time after an accident. Is that more important in a trucking case than anything else?
Yeah, I think so as it relates to other motor vehicle accidents, and really for two reasons in my mind, and we'll get Rachel to add to this, but really for investigation purposes and preservation purposes. The truck driver is going to report the accident immediately to his supervisor, employer, and the insurance company, and they're going to put out an arsenal of individuals to investigate the accident, gather evidence, and those types of investigative tactics in order to find out what happened. The individual, they don't really have those types of resources to do that. So you need to get to an attorney who can investigate it, who can get to the witnesses, and who can also send out what we call preservation letters to the trucking company. Preserve your truck. Don't change it. Don't make repairs to it. Preserve the log books. Preserve any black box data, electronic control modules that these trucks have now that keep a wealth of information and data concerning the trip that the individual truck driver was on.
I totally agree with that, Carter. Usually these trucking companies and commercial companies have investigators on the scene within hours of the wreck. They'll call the victim, the other driver, and and recorded statements, and those are always tailored towards the trucking company in those cases. They're not to protect the person that was injured. And Carter's right about the spoliation of evidence. I mean, there's computerized data on these trucks that'll say exactly how fast that truck was going at the time of the wreck. I mean, there's a lot of truck drivers that are not going to own up to whether they were speeding. They're scared to get fired from the company. And I do want to expand on that I represent some truck drivers too that have been injured with other truckers, with buses, with whatever. And there's a lot of really wonderful people out there, but we're not about bashing truck drivers here.
And we're representing a truck driver right now, multi-18-wheeler accident, and we spent 3 hours the other day trying to locate and obtain the black boxes in a tractor that was basically unrecognizable after the incident.
Yeah, we have time probably for about one more question, and we have a question here about trucks having governors. Sometimes they seem to be going pretty doggone fast, but do trucks have governors?
Some governors do, and it really just depends upon the employer. They're not required to have them, but just for the viewers, governors are basically limiters limiting the speed in which a truck can go. Sometimes I see them, sometimes I don't. Some of the individuals that I'm representing right now who are actual truck drivers, they don't have limiting devices. With the electronics that we have in these trucks right now, the employers can really keep track of how fast a person's going with the GPS systems that they have, and really they can control that a lot better through the electronics.
Let's try to fit one more in. What role does alcohol and drug use play in tractor-trailer accidents?
Well, I saw a recent statistic that most truck driving wrecks are caused by DUIs, or caused from intoxication from drugs or alcohol. And obviously, a driver's impaired behind a regular car, but when they're driving a giant, massive vehicle like that, it's treacherous.
And prescription drugs are a problem. Painkillers and those types of things that can alter somebody's mood or mind and make them less attentive can be problematic as well.
Time just enough for our final thought, Rachel, for you?
Well, I recently saw that Alabama ranks 9th in all the states and across the country for fatalities from truck driving. trucking accidents. And I just want the public to be aware that not only is it driver error, but also sometimes equipment error. You see this rubber on the interstates all the time from tire blowouts. Usually those are 18-wheelers. Equipment can become detached. Trucks can jackknife, which means they can fold in half, and anything in their path is going to be taken out. So it's my personal experience. I white knuckle it past a truck and get around them as fast as I can, or behind them as fast as I can, away from them. Even being between two trucks, I've seen
so just really be aware.
Crushed. Absolutely.
We're never going to be able to eliminate or prevent accidents entirely, but what we can do as passengers and drivers of our own automobiles is utilize the safety features, the safety equipment, the seat belts that we have, the airbag systems that we have, which can work wonderful if you're utilizing your seat belt system. And just don't make assumptions. Don't be complacent, and don't assume that another driver on the roadway is going to take the action that they should take.
That's some great advice. Appreciate the time. An interesting conversation. Appreciate you being with us, and you as well. As we wrap things up, you can still get your questions in. Call, text, email. Would love to hear from you. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week on The Attorneys.
Thanks for watching The Attorneys, sponsored by the law firm of Hollis Wright.